Hey, hey, howdy ho, welcome, Jamaica Basketball Project. Rick Turner with you tonight, head coach of the Jamaican national basketball team and the head of the Jamaica Basketball Project here in the US, where we are trying to create awareness and ultimately maybe some funding for the Jamaica basketball program in our goal of making it to the Olympics in Paris of 2024. So that's kind of what the idea behind this live streaming is. Also, given our situation where so many of us are stuck at home and not much to do and running out of things to watch on Netflix and Amazon Prime, maybe this gives you a little something to do throughout your day. Also want to welcome those of you that are watching this on a recording. Love to have you in live and invite questions if anyone wants to ask questions while we are live, but want to welcome those of you that are watching this as a recording, and thank you for doing that. It helps us generate views, and the guy that I'm talking to tonight has challenged himself to have the most views after just 6 episodes because he's not very competitive at all. But we'll get to that here in a moment. First, I'm going to introduce my little, well, I don't want to say little, that's not right. My sidekick, Rich Mialovich. I don't want to diminish you right from the beginning. That's not a good way to start. My little sidekick.
My little guy, my sidekick.
Yeah.
Hold
on, let me just say this. So I talked a couple episodes about how, when you're online and whatnot, it's so easy to be criticized. So, parents have a tendency to do that as well. So my dad told me that I was puffy and red on the first episode that he saw. And then on the last episode, he said, "How come you don't ever talk to the other guy?" I said, "Dad, the other guy's rich. Like, what do you mean?" Well, you didn't engage in him very much. So I want to, and I do appreciate his feedback. So I do want to make sure that we're engaging with Mr. Mialovich and want to say hi. And did you get cleaned up a little bit? I don't want to call you out.
You know what? I got a haircut today. I was a little bit, it's hard these days to get a haircut. And my sister-in-law, who's kind of part of our inner circle here, gave me a haircut here at the house. Got to clean me up. She used to do it. She does that. She used to cut my hair, and so I got a little cleaned up. Haven't shaved though in a while, but
all right.
Yeah. So just trying to do what I can do during these challenging times.
Okay. So this is a fun thing for me to do, and I'm glad that you joining in with me. But we talked to the first episode. We talked to Rowan Robinson, one of our assistant coaches. Many of you in Jamaica have known Rowan for many years. Then we talked to Kyle Plank, who is another one of our assistant coaches that's been doing the jump ball camps for 15 plus years now. We spoke to a great Jamaican basketball player named Kamani Friend in the 3rd episode. In our 5th episode, we spoke with DJ Stumbo, Nyron Hurd, who's another Jamaican assistant coach. And it's cool for me to talk to these guys because, I know them all well. They're part of my staff, or not so much the case with Kamani, but I met him over the summer and got to know him a little bit. But the guy that I'm bringing on here today is, I think I pretty much know everything there is to know about this guy. So this makes it a little bit harder for me. I want to introduce you here to Coach Omar Parker. There he is on the bench. And he has been coaching for many, many, many years, probably 30 years. He started the jump ball basketball camps. He didn't start it, but he really kind of got them off the ground 23 years ago or so. And so I'm going to bring him on here now in a second and see if we can get him on board here. Coach Omar, there he is. How you doing?
Rick. Hi, Rich.
How are you keeping all those fans quiet?
Well, unlike Rich, who's obeying all the, social distancing rules, I just invited 80 of my closest friends to come sit behind me tonight as we did the show.
Perfect. Just like you, to be more prepared than me and Rich. How are you doing? What's going on? How's the family handling coronavirus 2020? Do you have all the painting and barking done in the beds, and you've weeded everything, and the house is in spick and span shape, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah, we've barked and rebarked, rocked and re-rocked, building planters, changing colors. We got the steam cleaner out. We've done the whole thing. The cars are sparkling. The garage has been reorganized.
Yeah. Who's doing
decorations up already?
Who's doing the main homeschooling? Is that you or your wife?
So generally Kendra does. For a while, I was going into the office just once or twice a week and doing my regular job. But she's been doing that. The Issaquah School District has done a pretty good job of getting stuff online. So my daughter Peyton gets to do a bunch of that stuff. And from time to time, dad jumps in. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier coaching high school, college, and professional basketball players than it is teaching a 6-year-old girl math. I'm not cut out for kindergarten.
But you've got
you got the what?
You have the stickers for everything you guys do during the day.
So we do have a chart that we put up that has various, like adventure time, math, science, English, and mom, dad, and Peyton, get stickers for, accomplishing those tasks. Mm-hmm. And, to go back to your original question, Peyton and mom's chart is, their stickers are filling the chart, but dad's are lacking. Seriously.
The only reason I bring that up is because I want Rich to feel inadequate in his parenting of his 13-year-old.
Yeah,
does that work at all, or do you have?
Well, I think it's got to be. His school was pretty good about it. He's on spring break this week, so they're not doing anything. So now has even more time to play his games, etc. But I think for young kids, now it's like 8 years old and below. Although 6 is probably okay, but to fill the time with no school, it's a challenge. But yeah, our guy, he's been doing the online. They've tweaked it. It's hard to be. It's hard for anyone to be doing online courses for that long. But anyhow, yeah, it's a interesting times. But whatever. We'll remember it in our own ways, I suppose, when we get through it.
So, Parker, are you excited about this deal as much as me?
About this deal tonight being on your show, the Jamaican basketball?
No, not this deal. The basketball thing.
I'm super excited to see Rich. I haven't seen him in a while. It's nice to see a guy with a haircut and all that. I mean, every time I see Rich, all I can see is he's talking about a 13-year-old. That's about the time I met Rich. And he was guarding me all over the court. So yeah, I couldn't be more excited to mainly to see Rich. Secondly, of course, you, who I talk to all the time. And no, I am super excited. I've been involved with Jamaican basketball personally, for 6 or 7 years, and then to follow what you've done and see the camp grow and hear about it and to now have this opportunity is pretty cool. So I am excited about it.
Well, you probably overheard me a little bit talking about knowing so much about where you've been and what you've done. So it is a little awkward for us to have a conversation kind of like this, but I wasn't there for the early years of jump ball. And so talk about that a little bit and how cool that was. Is that Peyton?
That's Peyton coming in real quick.
Yeah. That's
she wants to know when to come in and get introduced, so I had to write the time.
Okay.
So what your question was right when we started jump ball?
Yeah, just what it was like in the early years of jump ball before I got down there, and it was at St. George's, and it was, you know, on the crappy courts with the no nets and not a lot of kids. But I know when you came back, you just raved about how you loved it and couldn't wait to go back the next year. So just talk about those early years of jump ball.
So I'm 20 something and I'm an aspiring coach, and you know, I'm sure you've been through the history with your viewers, but Digger Phelps, who was the coach at Notre Dame, had done it, and then Ed Peppel, the legendary, you know, most winningest coach in the state of Washington, had done it, and I was his assistant coach. And Ed Peppel came back after a year and said, you know, I really enjoyed my time in Jamaica, but this is a young man's deal. This is a young man's camp that needs to be run. You go do it. And so I said, great. And, you know, I got off the airplane not knowing really what to expect, and, you know, was treated great by the Jamaican people, you know, Bill and Chad, who I'm sure if you haven't had on the show, you will, you know, and were just great at taking me around. And, you know, I was super excited to be there right up to the time that we showed up at St. George, and we went to these outdoor courts, and there was gravel all over the place, and the baskets were, you know, stationed in old oil barrels that were filled with water. And so you had oily water, and you're slugging these things around. And, you know, I'm not sure that I spent, you know, nearly as much time with a broom in my hand as the rest of the guys, but we spent, you know, most of the first part of camp, you know, the day before getting ready, just sweeping courts and building courts and getting stuff ready.
Wasn't there like tennis net posts in the middle of the court? I remember there was like posts sticking out of the middle of the court, and we had to, you know, kids had to avoid that, and we'd had to station a coach right there so they didn't impale themselves on the pole.
So as I recall, we basically fashioned, you know, 4 courts or 3 courts out of, and 2 of them were tennis courts.
Yeah.
And that's where those 2 metal posts that you're talking about were, and we had to have coaches during games actually stand there so that kids wouldn't run into the big metal posts. But yeah, and then that's it right there. You know, you can kind of see, and that looks like a few years after, you know, where we've drawn with chalk. I don't know that we did that the very first year to make a court, and it's, you know, 100 degrees out there, and you're just out in the pavement all day long. And it was a super, super exciting time. It was a really high energy camp. The kids and the coaches were super excited to be there. I remember that. But I remember the combination of the heat and the facilities, you know, and the newness of a formalized basketball camp in Jamaica, presented for what I would later say that it was the hardest work that I'd done on a basketball court, you know, probably ever, you know, even.
Hey, so Omar, let me ask you, I mean, so when you go over that first year, and we're talking 25 years ago, is that what we said?
Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, I mean, this will be an interesting thing. You've been a basketball guy. I mean, what was the, you know, was there, I mean, in general, was there other basketball? What was their basketball? I mean, did they have a national program or anything at that point in time, Rick, or do you guys know that? What was happening from, I mean, I know you guys were reaching a lot of different, you know, younger kids and stuff, but in terms of the, you know, I know that camp has grown. What was basketball in general like in that country?
Well, I'll let Omar hop on this, but yeah, they certainly did have a national program, but they didn't have a lot of camps going on, which was the impetus to get the camp going. because there just wasn't a lot of things being offered for kids down there at the time to give them like a fundamental introduction, I guess, to basketball. And like Omar said at the beginning of it, they brought down Digger Phelps the first year, and it just wasn't, it just wasn't his deal. And Coach Pepple, it was his deal. Like, he is really, really good with kids.
Sure.
But the conditions were so challenging. And then that's how Omar got involved.
And so when you got there, Omar, when you got there, were you thinking, I mean, you're probably seeing kids that had absolutely zero fundamentals, that never really worked on basketball specific skills at all, right?
Yeah, there definitely was that. Like Rick says, that there was a Jamaican Basketball Association. There was a group, but those people were, not. They weren't too much into the camps. It wasn't, super, organized. And so Bill and Chad through the Notre Dame club decided to run this camp, and having worked with Coach Pepple. I kind of, he had kind of explained, what it was like. But I walked out there the first day and got all the Jamaican coaches together in a classroom and started drawing up the facility, and here's station 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to do ball handling, and you're going to do passing, and you're going to do shooting, and try to explain in a, just a quick elevator pitch exactly how to teach all of those things. And Bill and Chad pulled me aside and said, that ain't gonna work, dude.
But you're like, I've been doing this since I was 6 years old in Mercer Island.
Right. I've been to 100. I've been to Lenny Wilkins basketball camp, when I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Now I've been running basketball camps for 5 years, which at the time, felt like a million years to a 20-something, cocky, ready to roll coach.
Yeah.
Of course this is gonna work. And when we got out there and I said, let's just try it, and I saw what we were dealing with, we had to really structure the camp, and we would bring everybody together, do, shooting, balance, eyes, elbows, follow through, where's the beef, all of that stuff. We would do, thumbs down, chest passing together, and then break up and have people do it, which is part of the reason why it was so much work, because you were doing so much of the coaching in the beginning. And there were coaches there that were young coaches that were good. They had some fundamentals. They were eager. They were excited, and we had some of those. But we also had brand new coaches that hadn't done much of anything.
You know what I remember?
Say hi, Peyton.
Hello.
Hey, you know what I remember about early on there?
Yeah.
Is just a memory that sticks with me is Kali McCarthy and Mugabe Thomas coming in early to get extra work with you.
Yeah.
Before camp started. And you did like an hour with those guys, just footwork stuff. And I don't know whether they're watching. I hope that maybe they are, but I just remember those two guys and you getting with them and teaching them, and them really kind of taking it in. I know Mugabe had some national team run for a few years for sure.
Yeah. So we had to build the camp. You had, I don't know what the age groups are, but it was probably 10 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to break groups up into skill levels, abilities, age groups. Thanks, Peyton. When we first started, and then after about year 2 or 3, once we developed that day camp, that's when we started, or I started, fantasizing about an all-star camp, and that's where Mugabe and those guys came into play. I think what year did you come down, Rick? Was it year?
It was 99, I think. So it was like year 3 or 4. Must have been like year 4. It's 99.
So most all the hard work had been done before you got there. It was the building of the camp and and getting the format and the coaches.
Right.
By the time you got there, we might have been doing footwork, but when we first started, we were sweeping courts and trying to teach, trying to show kids their left hand. We'd come a long way by the time you got involved.
Yeah, I do remember sweeping courts while you were at the pools. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to show you a picture right now, and because you're talking about All-Star Camp. So
yeah, there you go.
This is All-Star Camp, and this was the one in Ocho Rios. And at the bottom of the screen, it says 2001, so I assume that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a feeling you're going to say something different, but a memory comes to mind from this, and I'm wondering, does anything come to your mind when you see this All-Star Camp in Ocho Rios?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen this picture in forever. I see my sister Amy in the picture, and I see a wet court. I remember doing this in the rain.
Yeah. Let me give you a hint. See this wall in the background?
Yeah.
Do you remember anyone peeking over that wall?
Who was peeking over that wall?
Well, there was, we would do, I don't know if we were doing them after camp or whatever, but we were doing some coaches games. And while we were playing the coaches games, I was getting heckled by 2 or 3 guys on the other side of the wall that were just kind of outside watching camp. And every time I touched the ball, they'd say, "Shoot it, Larry, shoot it. You're on, Larry." Calling me Larry Bird. Yeah, the only white guy out there.
I do
also,
remember
the Prime Minister landed his helicopter right at the camp.
That's true. The Prime Minister came in and landed. There was a field next to that place, and walked across the field and came over and shook our hands and said thanks for coming. And that All-Star Camp was a neat start to something. We were trying to help kids maybe land college scholarships and stuff like that. And, getting the best 14, 15 players. And I think that in some way in year 3 or 4, whether the All-Star Camp ever, really, really changed these kids or not, it gave us a lot of momentum. Having the best kids that were in Jamaica coming to our camp was pretty cool. Yeah.
Ultimately, what sort of ended that was that other people played All-Star camps.
Yeah, there started to be a lot of Star Search camps and such that kind of came after or in competition with our camp, and
Yeah. So, it's hard to. Normally, our thing isn't to compliment each other, and I don't want it to really change tonight. But I do have to say that one of the things that one of the reasons why I wanted you to be a part of this adventure with me is not only to share it with you, but also because you are as good of a teacher of basketball that I've ever been around. And I just kind of wonder, where did that come from? Like, is that just something that you wanted to emulate from someone else, or is that just kind of in your makeup, or what is it that allows you to be able to speak to a different player and relate to them?
Well, I guess first of all, it is hard to talk to you, having been such close friends and everything. But to hear you say that's really nice. I don't know how true that is. I think that I've been super fortunate and really lucky, in the true sense of the word lucky, to have been around some of the best teachers. I mean, from Ed Pepple, who is arguably one of the best, not clearly the best all-time high school coach in the state of Washington. Wins, record, reputation, all of that, and certainly one of the best in the nation. I left there and went to the University of San Diego and played for Hank Egan, who was actually Greg Popovich's coach. Mm-hmm. And, Greg Popovich now is obviously, one of the top, most esteemed coaches in all of the business. And Hank Egan, in some ways, I'm sure if he didn't teach Greg Popovich his defensive philosophy, he's, sure as heck influenced it. Mm-hmm. And so I got to be trained by him. I got to work with Quinn Snyder, who's at the Utah Jazz and who was at Duke forever, and got to work there for 4 years and see what that was about. I got to work for Rod Jensen, who, worked in a place where, arguably they might have started the amoeba zone. I mean, there was just a series of very, very fortunate events that led me to work with or play for or both from all these coaches. And it just gave me a great opportunity to learn. It was just a lucky set of circumstances to get a lot of really good philosophy and information.
So we talked about it today, and I don't want you to call out any other coaches or any other jobs that you'd had, but one of the things you mentioned to me the other day was just what an eye-opening experience it was to go to Missouri. And I think the way you put it was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be done. Like, what a different deal it was there that Coach Snyder had going on than every other place you had been. When you'd been to a lot of places, you'd seen a lot of good programs, and they did it a different way, and it stood out to you.
Yeah, I worked at Washington State. It was my first college job. I guess other than I was an assistant at BYU Hawaii, where I graduated and played. And I left there and I went to Boise, and there was a lot to learn and a lot to see there, but walking into the University of Missouri and seeing that, the kind of the organization, the direction that assistant coaches and other staff people had, the imagination, the creativity that was involved. I mean, this guy was kind of the limit there, and and then to watch, Quinn and his staff on a daily basis, really weave in, team bonding and a team message with a really high level of teaching the game. And in the off season, watching skill development, I think that had, as big an impact as anything on me, on kind of seeing how I wanted to run things and do things a little bit if I ever got the chance.
Yeah. So then, you come back to Seattle and you take a job coaching at Liberty High School, and I've said for a long time that the Liberty family is pretty lucky. They may not understand how lucky they are to have you there, because of just the tireless effort that you put into it, and the knowledge and the teaching and all that. And you're doing stuff there that it's a challenge to be a high school coach, isn't it? I mean, there's turnover every year. You and Gavin over at Mercer Island are kind of like the graybeards in your conference, but everywhere around the state, everywhere around the country, it's just not an easy thing to do for many reasons.
No, on some level, it's very simple. because, like as the, national Jamaican coach, you're the head coach. And so you can kind of steer the direction where you want to go and be creative and try things and do things, the turnover is something that's challenging, when those kids leave and sometimes you feel like you're left with a bare cupboard, but kids shock you. They stand up and do great things that you didn't imagine.
Right.
This past year's team is a good example. I think that you have to be involved in the youth program and start at the grassroots. And I love being the basketball coach at Liberty. There are challenges with parents and kids that that can't quite see a team concept quite yet because they're young and immature, but their hearts are in the right places. They're malleable. There's you can formulate a team. There's a lot of things. It's the level that I really want to be at. I think it parallels the Jamaican basketball in a lot of ways. You're now you have to start with as a high school coach, you got to coach the varsity on one level, and you got to be at the very top of that, but you've also got to be down at third and fourth grade. And as I speak with you and watch you trying to formulate a team and figure out who the best guys are and how to get in touch with those, but by the same token, you're down at the grassroots working the camp, and you're trying to bring all of that together. And I think when that comes together, which I'm optimistic it will, then you've got something really special.
Yeah. But you've had the unique ability, though, as a high school coach to build a program, partly because you came in right away and got involved at the youth level because of your background at Mercer Island, and Coach Peppel did the same thing. And for those that don't know, we keep referring to Ed Peppel, who was Omar's high school basketball coach. All he did is win 952 games in like 50 years of coaching. He's a basketball Hall of Famer. So you got to see how to do it, but there's so many, and when I was talking about turnover, there's obviously the turnover of your roster every year, but I'm talking about just turnover of coaches in high school, because it's not a real easy job to hold on to for various reasons. And you've been able to even create a coaching tree.
I've been able to, I'm sorry?
To create a coaching tree. Like that's unheard of. You've been there for like 8 or 9 years. You've had 4 or 5 assistant coaches go on and get head coaching jobs.
Well, I'm too dumb to know any different. Right. I when I took the job, my high school coach had known me since I was in 3rd grade. I played for him, all the way through 12th grade. That's 9 years. I went off and played at every college there was possible, and had 11 years of college basketball under my belt, and then came back and coached with him on 2 different occasions for a total of 6 years. The only thing I knew was that a high school basketball coach stuck around. I didn't know that there was such turnover. It wasn't until after my first year and almost getting fired that, and in talking to you actually, Rick, and you telling me, well, the average turnover is probably 2.5, 3 years for a coach. And I argued with you. And then you pointed out, all of the high school coaches. I think it takes a unique, I don't know, stubbornness to be a high school coach, a strong-willed, but somehow flexible within that. Yeah. There's a massive amount of pressure from parents these days. There are a million stumbling blocks that you can run into, whether it's with recruiting at the high school level, or money, or misappropriation, or breaking a rule that you intentionally or unintentionally because of district or WIA policy. I mean, there's a lot of things that can trip you up, and I've been super lucky. I had great support from my administration, all the way from the superintendent's office, all the way through the principal and the athletic director. And there's been turnover, but those people have stayed. I had great support. The youth program had a wonderful structure and was ready to catch fire just at the time that I took the job. And again, I was super lucky to come in there and watch that grow. In fact, I hired a couple decent coaches to fill in there that have catapulted our Liberty basketball. I got a really talented 7th and 8th grade coach that does a great job of prepping those guys for high school. And but yeah, there was just a lot of fortune and a little determination. Kind of went a long way.
So what's the most amount of games you've won in a season? Is it like 21, 20? You guys have had a lot of success. I'm just trying to get an idea. What's the top end there?
I think 3 years ago we won 21 games. 21.
That's what I thought, because you don't play that many games, right?
You play 20 regular season games.
Yeah.
So to win 21 out of 20 regular season is pretty good, but no, of course not that. You don't count it counts into the playoffs.
No, right.
I think we were 21-6 or 21-7 that year, so we ended up playing 28 games, which got us all the way to the Elite Eight and then a game after in the state tournament. So we were essentially 2 games shy of the most games you could possibly play.
Okay, so that's your best year, 21. It's a great year for any team. So you do that 47 more times, and you can equal Coach Peppel's record.
Yes, that's right.
It's doable.
If you have your best year 47 more times.
Yeah, I've done the math. I'll have to continue to coach, and actually, I've done the math more realistically than 21 wins, because we average now probably 14 or 15 wins a season.
Yeah.
And if I can continue to coach and live that long, I think when I'm 123, I could possibly tie Coach Peppel.
And we might be out of lockdown by then too.
Huh?
We might be out of lockdown by the time you're 123.
Well, I'll just have to go till I'm 124 then.
Yeah.
That's just the type of guy I am, Rick.
So, okay, we get a lot of, well, I don't know that we get a lot of anything here, but we get people, kids, athletes watching that want to be a part of the national program, whether they're 15 years old or 25 years old, 35 years old, everywhere in between. And you've had a playing background that I think is similar to someone that would want to, compete with us. You've played NCAA Division II. You've played NCAA Division I. What was Pomona Pitzer? Division III?
Yeah.
Division III. You played professionally over in Germany. You've been coaching for a long time. I get this question a lot. What do I have to do? What does one need to do to be able to get a scholarship in the States, to compete on the national team? What is kind of something you would tell one of those people that asked a question like that?
Well, I hesitate to say this because a lot of kids now focus a lot on exposure and being seen and those type of things. And I think being seen takes care of it itself. If the question is coming from someone in Jamaica, you just look at the Jamaican kids that are now playing on college basketball teams. I think, yes, you need to be seen. And I think that would be what most kids and maybe people that are guiding them would say. But the number one thing that I think that you have to do, and when kids in the States ask me, what do I need to do? My answer is get better. You need to get better and get as good as you possibly can. And that means, being able to handle the ball, being able to shoot the ball, being committed to guarding, physically being strong and working on your body, working on your agility. And if you get as good as you can get, and you're good enough, you'll be seen. You know, I think there's a lot of emphasis on playing on the right AAU team and, you know, my YouTube video and all of that. And, you know, at the end of the day, having been a college coach, those guys don't miss very often. You know, they're going to find you if you're good enough. And the emphasis has to be on just putting in the work and getting better.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The question came up on our last live stream, and obviously you nailed it. But you can't be afraid to put the work in. And at the end of the day, you just don't want to have any regrets. And when I look at you, I mean, you can't tell by the live stream on the roster. What are you, 5'10", 5'11"?
I was listed taller than that at times.
Okay, well, 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were able to play professional basketball, you know, and the reason you were able to do that is because you weren't afraid to work at it. You weren't afraid to fail. You weren't afraid to get in the gym or go out to the playground or wherever you could and just put work in. And I think that's what gets lost. I think sometimes, you know, it's one thing to speak about American kids and AAU and being seen in that, but I think for Jamaican kids, the story is a little bit different in that there's no substitute for the work you have to do to put in, and you can't find any excuses.
Well, and I think it's the right kind of work, and I think that's tough. You know, I was proud to work in Jamaica and go down there and maybe, you know, have a small influence on basketball, but I'm super glad that you're down there and that, you know, listening to you talk, that there's really good Jamaican basketball coaches down there. You know, putting in work, what does that work look like? You know, is that bouncing the ball and you know, shooting for an hour and a half, you know, and getting on the free throw line, or is it really understanding footwork and working on back pivots and really refining a shot fake, you know, and you know, having somebody pass you the basketball and working on a quick release on balance and shooting the ball. And you know, as you spin it back to where you started with me, I had very, very good coaches. And so I think the work that I was doing, you know, there were probably guys that were working as hard, but probably weren't doing the smartest of work. You know, they were doing 2-ball drills and really learning how to use their feet and shoot game speed and you know, putting things on paper and charting them and doing those type of things. And I think that's a huge advantage, and it's a competitive world for scholarships. So, you know, doing the right work and doing it hard and doing it often, you know, it's kind of the triple threat, so to speak.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me really quick. Tell me about, you know, because I, you know, obviously when I was a kid and we, you know, you know, the Mercer, your group of guys that came up. I mean, tell me about some of you guys, because I always just looked at your whole group of guys. You guys were all basketball. You were basketball guys all the way through. But tell me a little bit about you and some of the other guys in terms of, you were just saying a little bit. I mean, and the work you put in and what you guys did were you were year-round basketball starting at 12 years old, or what? Give me a little bit about that.
I played all the sports up until about 8th grade.
Okay. How about the rest? Yeah, some of the other guys.
Most of them were pretty much the same. We played all the sports, but basketball on Mercer Island was it. You know, Coach Peppel had built something that team traveled to Texas for a national tournament, and everyone wanted to be a part of that. On Saturday mornings, you went and you were coached by the high school guys, you know, and we had the Sonics and looked up to those guys and the University of Washington guys and you know, but to be able to touch those high school guys as a you know, 4th, 5th, and 6th grader and have them coaching you was pretty impactful. You know, for lack of a better word, we were brainwashed pretty quickly on that island to be basketball players.
Great basketball guys. Yeah.
And we played, in the summer, and we played during the season against, you and the Kirkland Magicians, and we were just together all the time. I mean, we were on an island, really on an island together,
Yeah.
And we would call each other and meet at the gym, and whether it was, 2 or 3 of us to get shots up or work on ball handling, or whether it was all of us to play pickup, we would find a way. And in those days, there weren't rules. The gym was open. You were just
competing with each other to get better. And we got your buddy, and it's like it's totally competitive and doing it at a young age. And I guess that's what I'm getting at, is just that what's built from where you came from, and then now passing that stuff on. And I try to if my kid thinks he wants to play sports and he's 13, and trying to instill some of that, but you have to kind of have that. You can only be shown it, but then the kid has kid has to have his own gumption to say, okay, I want to go do this. And so I mean, I think anyway, I just think it's really interesting to see where guys came from, and since I know about the Mercer Island program and a little bit about where you came from, I just think it's really interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, you talk about guys coming up together, and Omar talks about his group of guys doing that back a long time ago, but it happens everywhere, right? When you have a group of kids, no matter whether it's in high school or whether it's a college team or whether it's an international team like we're trying to put together, when you have a group of guys that kind of come up together, then you have a chance to be successful. And I don't know that it's fair to group them together like this, but there's 3 guys right now at least 3 right now, that have a chance to play in the NBA as Jamaicans at the same time. And they're all going to come out this year. We just learned yesterday that Nick Richards is going to declare for the draft. This is what he had to say, making his announcement after his junior year. And when you talk about Nick Richards and Kofi Coburn and Romaro Gill at Seton Hall, there's 3 Jamaican guys that have a chance to be on NBA rosters next year. And I'm gonna, I don't know the complete history of Jamaican basketball, but I know it pretty well. I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah,
it's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah,
guys, Omar, and I don't want you to call out any guy in particular, because it wouldn't be fair to the other guys, but you've sort of seen the list that we've put together with a video, and I'm not asking about these 3 guys in particular, but just give me your thoughts about what you see on the videos that we've seen, and I guess just ask if you share in some of the optimism that I have with the fact that I think we're knocking on the door to something pretty cool. And while you do that, I'm going to show some highlights of Nick Richards.
Well, I think it's, you turn on the TV and watch NCAA games, and you can, watch these guys playing, and it's pretty hard not to get excited. I mean, having coached at the Division I level, and coached some NBA guys, looking at these guys, they're, in many ways more athletic than some. I mean, look at that right there. Than some of the guys that I've seen that have been drafted. And it's just my hope that they'll be super excited about playing for the Jamaican national team, because like we just got done talking about, their impact on future kids in Jamaica and future basketball players is going to be huge. Mm-hmm. If that country sees the Jamaican national team, go to the Olympics in 2024, it's going to change things in Jamaica for a bunch of kids and for a bunch of basketball players there. So I'm hopeful, looking at these guys that they're going to want to participate on the Jamaican team. I can't imagine why they wouldn't, listening to you talk and doing things like this, and being out there and working hard at trying to get the word out for this. I mean, I think this is the start of something pretty big, and I hope these guys, get involved.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. I can't think of another time where Jamaica has had 3 guys in the NBA. And it's not for sure that those 3 guys will be there, but they're all going to have an opportunity, and whether they end up first round, second round, signing as a free agent, getting a G League contract, or getting a contract overseas, all of these guys will be playing basketball. And I even throw in Will Butler, who was at Alabama Birmingham this year as a senior graduating, as a guy that I would expect to be playing overseas next year somewhere, making money playing basketball. But we've seen, Omar, a list of probably 20 to 25 guys beyond these college kids that are pretty decent players, playing somewhere right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that a lot of them that we've watched on video, parallel some of these guys. They might not be quite to this level. Frankly, the one thing that they have in common is that most all of them are big guys.
Right.
And there's a need for guards. There's no reason why, you have to be 6'8" or 6'9" as a Jamaican to come play basketball in the States or something like that. A 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" guard who, spinning back to the work, working hard and doing the right things and footwork and shooting and those type of things could certainly accomplish that. But the majority of the players that we've seen have all been, 6'8" and bigger. This is Peyton, by the way. We want to introduce Peyton.
Oh, hi, Peyton. How you doing?
Hello, Peyton.
We're almost done now. Okay.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice for you. Get a kiss on the cheek, Dad.
Hey, do you guys?
Right.
Hey, Rick and Omar. I mean, do you guys? Do you sit back and think like, can you picture a gym and all of a sudden you got, I don't know, 25 guys that come in to work out, or I don't know how it's going to go. Do you kind of envision that? Can you envision that in your minds?
I think about it all the time.
Yeah, I just,
I think about it all the time. The possibilities, when you look at tape it guys, the thing that's hard, Omar and I have talked about it. The thing that's hard is, the only thing you really get at this point are highlights. So you can't really dig down deep as to on some of the intangible things about guys. But like Omar said, there's not a lot of guard options right now, which kind of opens the door for a lot of guys, right? If there's opportunities there for guys that maybe might not have thought that they'd be in the mix, and so yeah, that'll be a challenge for sure. So I don't know. We'll do it though, right?
Oh, I think it's going to be great. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. I'll let you go. Thanks for doing this. Was it?
All right. This was great. I would love to do it again. I see a couple guys who are former players. I see Justin Murray watching, who I know played for you, Rick, and was with me at Washington State for a short time. Yeah. I want to say hi to him. And I see Dalton O'Brien, who's one of my all-time favorites from Liberty High School. who was watching if he's not now. So I wanted to say hi to those guys while we're on. And Rich, it's great to see you. You've got the best haircut in Seattle.
Good to see you. Be well out there. Be well.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick, for having me. I look forward to doing it again.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye. All right. Cool. Well, another one in the books, Mr. Mianos.
Hopefully I get to see you in person before 2024.
I don't know. I see the end's in sight. I feel good about it.
Are you feeling good? Some good news?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't tell.
The arm is turning a little bit.
I heard what's the head guy's name, and they said, I was some interview, and they said, does it look like it's going to be less deaths than originally projected? I'm like, what kind of question is that?
We would have thought we would be talking about this stuff 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, whenever that was.
Anyway, yeah. Well,
all right. So I've been doing this, I guess, it's turned out to be basically every other day. I guess I'll try to stay on that pattern if possible. So we'll look to try to get back here on Friday. And I've got some ideas. I got a waiting list of people that I want to give an opportunity to get on here. So keep joining in, keep telling people about it, and just trying to keep us top of mind and give people something to do during this craziness and see what happens when it's all over. And we'll take our swing at 2024. See what happens, right?
Absolutely.
All right, my man.
Be well, Rick.
Let me see here. Oh, I forgot all my banners. Jeez. All right.
We'll chat
soon.
See
you next time. All right. Again, see you guys next time. It'll be probably Friday. And you know where to find us. Thanks.